大家重新默祷。
Let's pray in silence.
阿门。
Amen.
奉主耶稣圣名，我们继续来看但以理书第1章。
And we continue to study Daniel chapter 1,
现在看第5节，
verse 5.
王派定将自己所用的膳和所饮的酒，每日赐他们一份，养他们3年，满了3年，好叫他们在王面前侍立。这些被选入王宫受训的青少年，
The young men who were chosen to go into the king's palace to be trained,
王非常的重视这些年轻人，
the king esteemed them.
所以特别把自己每天所用的酒、所用的膳食每天就赐给他们一份。
So appointed for them a daily provision of the king's delicacies and of the wine which he drank.
要好好的养他们3年。
And for 3 years till this was
所
provided for
以
them.
这些年轻人是受王很大的重视
And so these young people met with the favor of the king.
当然了，学杂费都免了，
And of course, their tuition fees was waived.
吃的喝的跟王一样。
And whatever they ate and drank was the same as the king.
这些人当中第六节就是有底下这些人
And amongst them were these few people.
就是但以理、哈拿尼亚、米沙利、亚沙利亚。
Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah.
第7节，但是太监长给他们起了一个这个加勒底巴比伦的这个名字，
But the chief of the eunuchs gave them Babylonian names.
称但以理叫伯提沙撒。
He gave Daniel the name Belteshazzar.
但以理的意思就是神是我的审判者，
And Daniel means God is my judge.
伯提沙撒的意思是比勒所保护的。
And Belteshazzar means Bel protects me.
那比勒我们昨天晚上有说过，是巴比伦的最重要的神，
And Bel was the chief king, chief god of the Babylonians.
所以起这个名字变成是比勒所保护的人。
And when this Belteshazzar, the name was given to Daniel, means that Daniel was protected by Bel.
还有称哈拿尼亚叫做沙德拉，
And Hananiah was given the name of the Shadrach.
这个哈拿尼亚的意思就是神是赐恩的人。
And this Hananiah means the Lord is gracious.
那沙德拉的意思
And Shadrach means
就是阿古的仆人，那这个阿古就是巴比伦的神明
and I am afraid of this god of the Babylonians.
完全不一样的意思。
And so this was a different
那第
meaning
3个
altogether. The
叫
third,
米沙利，
Mishael.
米沙利说是谁能够像神呢？
And Mishael is who is what God is.
谁能够比得耶和华这位神呢？
Who is greater than Jehovah the Lord?
那么被改名叫米撒。
And he was given the name of Melchizedek.
米撒就是谁能够比米罗达呢？
And Melchizedek means who is as great as Merodach.
那米罗达就是昨天晚上我们讲的那个月神
And Merodach was the sun god of the Babylonians.
谁能够像耶和华神变成谁能够像米罗达这个神？
This Mishael means who is like this god, the Lord. And Meshach means who is this god, who is as great as this god Merodach.
那第4个就是亚沙尼亚，
And the last one was Azariah.
亚沙尼亚就是耶和华所帮助的人。
Azariah means the Lord God is my helper.
那被改名叫亚波尼哥，
And his name was changed to Abednego.
亚波尼哥就是尼哥所帮助的人。
And Abednego means one who is helped by Nego.
那尼哥就是犹太这个巴比伦的尼托这个神
And this Nego was the Babylonian king, Babylonian god by the name of
你说
Nego.
那个尼托这个神呢，是管理这个火管火的神，
And Nebo was the god of fire of the
他
Babylonians.
变成尼托的仆人。
And so this Abednego means servant of Nebo.
所以这4个人呢，完全呢被改成巴比伦的名字了。
And so Babylonian names were given to these 4 young men.
那为什么要这样改呢？
Why were their names changed in this way?
最主要的目的啊，就是要让他们忘记祖国，还有他们的神。
And most important was that they could forget the gods of their past, and that they would also forget their their origin, the nation of their origin.
那最主要就是要同化他们，
And the most important reason was to assimilate them,
要改变他们的名字还有习俗，好让他们忘记本国的事情。
changing their names and changing their customs.
所以现在有时候想到国外去的青年呢，
And some of our young people who have gone abroad,
特别是移民到国外去的，
and those who have emigrated to other nations,
有时候在国外上课的时候，
and when they go to school,
我拿起那个中文的点名簿啊，点某某某人呢，叫了老半天，没有人答应啊。
and when I take out the register and call their name, the Chinese name,
然后旁边就是叫你呀，叫你。
no one answer, but the one sitting by the side of this person will have to push him and say, hey, your name is read out.
他才知道那个名字是我。
Then only they know that their name have been called.
所以到国外去啊，差不多都是用外国名字了，
Because when you go abroad, probably you use English names,
所以中文的名字都忘记了，
and you will forget your Chinese name,
不会用。
and they are not using the
有一
name
些
of
中
the
文名
Chinese
字啊
name.
不会写。
They are of course not able to write the Mandarin version of their
我
names.
曾经看到一个国外的学生啊，一个教会的统领啊，写他的名字啊，说有多丑就有多丑啊。那个名
I've
字
seen some
很
of the
难看。
writings very ugly.
那英文是学得很好，
Their English excels.
所以怪不得我们新加坡啊，真的是很伟大的国家。
And it can be said that Singapore is a very great nation.
我今天才说要进新加坡大学啊，要英文要好，国文也要及格。
If to be admitted to the Singapore University, you must be good in English, and you must also be good in the second
英
language.
文要好，那没有问题了。
To be good in English is not a problem,
华文也要及格。
but you must pass also in the mother language, which
这
is
个就是要
Chinese.
告诉我们，你是华人啊，你是中国人，中国字不要忘记。
And this is to tell us that we are of Chinese origin, therefore we must not forget our mother tongue.
那当时的尼布甲尼撒王啊，就是要同化这些人。
And so King Nebuchadnezzar wanted to assimilate those Jewish youth.
那好在这个但以理啊，精通加勒底文，更精通希伯来文。
But Daniel, though he excelled in the language of the Chaldeans, he excelled more in the language of the Hebrews.
难怪啊，20节说王拷问他们啊，他们的智慧胜过其他的巴比伦人的10倍。
And so in verse 20, in all matters of wisdom and understanding about which the king examined them, he found them 10 times better than all the people of Babylon.
那么这件事让我们知道，信仰啊，就是不要被同化了。
And this is to teach us that in our religious belief, we must not be assimilated by false religions.
好，看第8节，
Verse 8,
但以理却立志不以王的善、王所饮的酒玷污自己，所以求太监长容他不玷污自己。虽然呢，王赐给王的善和王的酒，
although the king appointed for them his wine and his delicacies.
但是但以理跟他的朋友啊，就不用王善王酒。
But Daniel and his 3 friends would not eat of the king's delicacies nor drink of the king's wine.
为什么呢？
Why?
只有一个理由了，说不玷污自己。
And there was only one reason: they did not want to defile themselves.
那为什么王的善、王的酒会玷污自己呢？
Why was it that the king's wine and his delicacies would defile them?
圣经虽然没有说啊，我们可以猜测大概2个理由了。
Although it's not very clearly literally in the Bible, but we can guess that there must be 2 reasons.
第一个理由啊，就是王所用的膳跟酒大概都有祭过偶像。
And the first reason is that the king's meat and the king's wine must have been offered to idols.
那祭过偶像当然了，你吃了会 在灵性上玷污自己。
If we eat of food offered to idols, then spiritually we will defile ourselves.
第二个理由王的膳王的酒大概很多不合乎这个摩西的律法的规定。
And second reason is maybe the king's delicacies and the king's wine. Many of those food would be prohibited under the law of Moses.
因为摩西的律法有规定什么可吃，什么不可吃。
Because under the law of Moses, certain foods were prohibited from being eaten.
什么是洁净的，什么是不洁净。
What were clean, what were unclean.
所以这4个人决心不吃王膳，喝王酒。
So these 4 young men resolved not to defile themselves with the king's food and the king's wine.
那么第9节
Verse 9.
他们要求太监长呢，神就使但以理这4个人在太监长眼前蒙恩惠受怜悯。
So God had brought Daniel into the favor and the goodwill of the chief of the eunuchs.
就是太监长没有把他们马上的处罚，
And the chief of the eunuchs did not immediately punish them,
还委婉的很客气的对他们说。
but politely said to them.
第10节，
Verse 10.
太监长对但以理说：“我惧怕我主我王，他已经派定你们的饮食。倘若他见你们的面貌比你们同岁的少年人肌瘦，怎么好呢？这样你们就使我的头在王那里难保。”这个太监长没有用高压的手段来对付
This chief of the eunuchs did not use his authority to punish Daniel and his 3 friends.
他只有说你们这样做的话万一你们瘦了怎么办？
And he merely said that if you were to do this and you become thinner because you do not eat the king's food and drink his wine.
这样子不是你们有问题是我有问题我的头难保
What would happen? You would endanger my head before the king.
也就是说要被砍头的。
I would be beheaded.
但是11节，
Verse 11.
但以理对太监长所派管理但以理这4个人的委办这样说了。这个委办就是主厨了。
Said to the steward whom the chief of the eunuchs had set over.
12节说：“求你试试仆人们10天就好了。
Please test your servants for 10 days.
给我们素菜吃，白水喝，
Give us vegetables to eat and water to drink.
然后再看看我们的面貌跟那些用王膳王酒的那些少年的面貌，你看着办好了。”
And then you can compare our countenance with the countenance of those who eat the king's delicacies and drink his wine.
这个但以理这4个人他们也是很有信心的。
Daniel and his friends, 4 of them, had great faith.
他们认为只要试10天来试试看就好。
Just test them for 10 days.
到时候你们就看我们的脸色跟其他的人那个脸色来比较看看。
And then you can compare our countenance with the countenance of those who eat the king's food and drink his wine.
14节，
Verse
那
14.
委办就允准这件事，
And the steward consented with them.
就
In this
试
matter.
看他们10天。
Tested them 10 days.
15节，
Verse 15.
过了10天见他们的面貌比用王膳的一切少年人更加俊美肥胖。
And after 10 days, their features appear better and fatter in flesh than all the young men who ate the portion of the king's delicacies.
16节就撤去他们所用的膳，
So the steward took away their portion of delicacies.
然后他们就吃素菜了。
And so they were given vegetables.
这一吃了3年了。
And they became vegetarian for 3 years.
读到这里我们也许有人说这4个人够笨的了
And perhaps some of us will feel that these 4 young men were so foolish.
你说这是王所派的，为什么要拒绝呢？
Why should you reject what the king has appointed as your portion?
那这4个人认为可以拒绝，就应该勇敢拒绝。
And these 4 young men reckoned that they should decline because it was right for them to
那这样
decline.
看来后来但以理经过10天的考验之后，
And after 10 days, when they were tested,
那个15节说比一切其他的少年人更加俊美肥胖。
their features appear better and fatter in flesh than all the other young men.
有人说那肥胖很好
Fatter is good.
但是这里讲是俊美再加肥胖。
Here says better and fatter.
那意思就是胖的恰到好处。
That's fact within control.
所以才会俊美啊。
And that's why he is good in
那
appearance.
胖的不对地方啊，就不美了。
If you are fat in the wrong places, then you will not be, your features will not be good.
胖的多一点点也不美啊。
If you are fatter than beyond control,
那
then it's no good.
那是恰到好处。
And so this is just right.
所以日本话翻译这一句话就是脸色跟健康啊，都非常棒的。
And so the Japanese version of this verse says that the color of their face and their physical self was very of the right standard.
福建话的翻译更美。
And the Hokkien version of this
我读那
verse
个长老会的那个白话字
in the Presbyterian Church, they do read this Hokkien version.
这个俊美肥胖，它翻译作北抛啊，就是白里透红，刚刚好，好漂亮。
Very apt in appearance.
那不过我们这是和合本翻译作俊美肥胖，好像肥胖加上去就不太美的样子。
The word fat here seems awkward looking.
其实肥胖也是很美的。
And actually, if a person is fat, he is also good in appearance.
像我这么胖我就管他的，胖就胖吧。
And as far as I'm concerned, I'm not too concerned whether I'm fat or
因
not.
为胖也有胖的美啊。
Because if you are fat, you also can be good looking.
瘦到皮包骨也不见得美吧。
But if you are thin until you are just like a skeleton, then you are not good in appearance.
瘦也要瘦到好处，那胖也要恰到好处。
So if you are slim, you must also be good looking.
所以
And
我
if
说
you are fat, you must also be good looking.
我常常讲这个叫做但以理餐啊，但以理餐
And so that's why I say this is the meal of Daniel.
就是素菜吃白水喝。
And that is to eat of the vegetables and drink of water
简
only.
单的说就是很简单的吃喝。
They eat simple meals.
这样子，但以理也吃到90岁啊。
And Daniel lived until the ripe old age of 90 years.
他的健康、美丽、长寿，不是大鱼大肉，
And his features, when he appeared better and fatter than the rest, was not because he ate very good, delicious food.
所以有时候啊，如果你不想吃大鱼大肉啊，你就跟他讲，我但以理餐就好了。
And so sometimes you can say, I like the meal of Daniel rather than just meat and fish.
那但以理餐啊，如果加上提摩太酒也不错。
And the meal of Daniel mixed with the wine of Timothy, that would be better.
什么是提摩太酒？
What is the wine of Timothy?
你真的到外面去店里去买提摩太酒，没有这个品牌。
You have not a brand called Timothy wine.
提摩太酒就是说你的身体不太好，
Timothy's wine is when you are not very healthy,
特别是胃寒啊、胃冷，
especially when you have gastric problem.
那么你就喝一杯酒小杯的，
You drink
喝下去，
a little bit of wine,
让你的胃温暖起来，
and that is to warm up your
这
appetite,
样对身体有帮助。
and that will help you
所
physically.
以为了身体的健康而喝一小杯，喝一点点，这是可以允许的。
For health reasons, you drink a little bit of wine, that is permitted.
这个叫提摩太酒。
And that is the wine of Timothy.
我不是说你拼命喝1瓶2瓶这样子，不是。
It's not drinking wine by the bottles.
那如果吃但以理餐加上提摩太酒，我看这个身体一定是不错。
If you have a meal of Daniel and also added with wine of Timothy, then you will be healthy.
我就想到以色列百姓在旷野，
I remember the Israelites when they were in the
他
wilderness.
们40年当中啊，吃同样一种食物，
And during the 40-year journey, they ate of the same food.
就是玛拿。
And that was manna
40年呢，
for 40 years.
天天吃一样的，
And they did not eat meat.
早餐、午餐、晚餐都一样。
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner, they ate the same food.
老年人、少年人都吃一样，
Whether they were young or they were old or elderly, they ate the same food.
不是1年2年了，是40年呢。
They did not eat for 1 year or 2 years. They ate for 40
圣
years.
经里面说啊，没有一个饿死的，
And the Bible says none of them died of hunger.
倒是啊，乱吃肉哈，很多人死掉了。
But when they feasted on meat, many of them died.
所以从但以理这个表现，我们知道简单的饮食哈，确实是健康又长寿的秘诀。
And so from what Daniel did here, so we can see if we eat simple meals, that is a secret to longevity.
那现在很多人在吃这个减肥餐啊，
And today there are many people who go on a diet program.
我们叫瘦身餐。
They want to eat the meals which can help them to
这
slim.
种减肥餐有的是3天的，
And some are for just 3 days.
有的5天的，
Some are just for 5
有
days.
的是1个礼拜的。
Some are diet for 1 week.
但以理餐不是减肥餐，它10天。
And Daniel's meal was not a dietary program, but it was for 10 days.
所以我一想如果你有信心呢，要让身体更健康更俊美不妨试试10天的但以理餐，试试
So
看。
if you want to be healthy, perhaps you have faith, then you can try to go on the Daniel's diet,
就是吃素菜，
to eat vegetables,
不吃肉，不吃鱼，
do not eat meat, do not eat fish,
喝白水，
to drink water,
不喝 cola，
don't drink cola,
是白开水，
only water
这样10天。
for 10 days.
但以理餐，
That is the meal of
为
Daniel.
了你的健康你试10天看看，
For the sake of your health, you just go on this diet.
也许你真的大有进步啊，
Maybe you will improve
就
health-wise.
不必花很多钱到那个瘦身餐那边去受婆受罪啊。
So therefore, you did not go to the slimming program, commercial slimming program, and suffer.
台湾的同龄说1公斤1公斤要2万块钱
To
台币
slim down 1 kilo, you pay 20,000 Taiwan dollars.
就是把你的身体割掉1公斤的肉
And that is
还要2万块钱给对方。
to remove 1 kilo of your weight, you have to pay 20,000 NT.
那么现在这个但以理餐10天倒是值得我们试试看。
And so it is worthwhile for us to go on the Daniel's diet
当
for
然
10 days.
他们最主要的目的就是不要玷污自己，
And the main reason was that they did not want to defile themselves.
就是要分别为圣，
And that was to consecrate
过
themselves
着简单的生活。
and to pass a simple life.
好，再看这个第8节
And now we go back to verse 8.
第8节说但以理却立志，
And Daniel purposed in his heart.
所以这件事情要立志，不简单的。
And this was with resolve. It was not easy.
立志是很重要的决心，
To resolve means to be very determined in one's heart.
这种好的立志是圣灵的感动。
Such good resolve comes from the motivation of the Holy
看
Spirit.
腓立比书第2章
We turn to Philippians chapter 2,
13节，
verse 13.
腓立比书2章13节，
Philippians 2, verse 13.
因为你们立志行事，也都是神在你们心里运行，为要成就他的美意。我们每当立志行事。
When we always will to do good,
他说是神在你们心里面运行，
it is always God who works in you.
目的是要成就神的旨意。
And its purpose was to fulfill His good pleasure.
所以我们人人要为神立志。
So therefore, we must always resolve for the Lord.
但你要吃素菜喝白水。
And Daniel resolved to eat only vegetables and drink water.
第8节他是经过立志的，
And this was done with resolve in his heart.
他知道这个要碰到很多的困难，
And he knew that this would encounter much
也是
difficulty.
要面临很大的挑战，
And this would also encounter a great
所以
challenge.
他必定立定心志来胜过。
So he had to purpose this in his heart to prevail.
这一辈子我们要立很多的志。
And in our life, we also have to resolve to do many things.
圣经里面呢有2个立大志的人，
And there were 2 men who made great resolve in their life.
倒是值得我们注意哈。
And they are worthy of our notice.
看约书亚记24章15节，
We turn to Joshua chapter 24 verse 15.
24章15节，
Joshua 24 verse 15.
约书亚临终的时候，他立个志向，
And this was towards the end of his life, Joshua resolved.
他对以色列民这样说
And he said to the Israelites,
今天呢，有3个神呢摆在你们面前，
and before you there are 3 gods.
一个是大河那边的神，
And one is the God beyond the rivers.
一个是迦南人的神，
And another God is the God of the Canaanites.
一个是天上的耶和华神。
And the other one is the Lord who is the God in heaven.
这3个神呢，你们要选哪一个？
Of these 3 gods, which God would you choose?
约书亚说，不管你们选哪一个。
And then Joshua said, regardless of who you choose.
15节的最后啊，他立志说，至于我和我家，我们必定侍奉耶和华。
And it says, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord.
这是约书亚从年轻到年老啊，立定心志要这样做。
And Joshua, from young until he was old, resolved in his heart to do this.
所以每个人要有好的立志。
So we must have good resolve in our life.
约书亚是一家之主，
And Joshua be the head of his
他
household.
决心呢带领全家一辈子侍奉神。
He resolved to lead his household to serve the Lord all the days of their lives.
我在台湾呢替年轻人证婚的时候，
When I officiate the wedding of the young people in Taiwan,
我不会问这个新娘新妇啊，你愿意这个嫁给他做好的妻子，跟他同苦同甘一辈子吗？我不问这个的。
I usually do not ask the bride or the bridegroom, so and so, do you resolve to live with him as his wife and to
你
love him
愿意
and
娶这个人
to be
呢
with
做你
him?
的妻子，一辈子爱他，好像爱自己吗？
You brother, do you resolve to marry this sister and to live with him, live with her as the husband?
他们就回答我愿意。
And they will reply, I do.
这个在我们台湾呢，大家都讨论过了。这个在那边问这句话，这好像多余的。
And so we have discussed this and feel that in the wedding, this should be omitted because this seems to be without any significance anymore in a wedding.
不愿意，他怎么会站在那边呢？
If he is not ready to marry, why is he the bridegroom or the bride
他
that
老
day?
早就落跑了，
They would have separated long ago.
所以那是多余的。
So those words are without any
但是
significance.
外国人好像都要这样子。
But the Westerners want this very much.
所以我现在我都告诉新娘新郎啊一句话，
So I will just make a statement to the bride and the bridegroom.
不必回答。
You don't have to answer.
我说新娘子啊，我一句话告诉你，
Sister so and so, I have a word to tell you.
你要像路德，
You must be like Ruth.
你的国就是我的国，
Your nation is my nation.
你的神就是我的神。
Your God is my God.
你哪里去，我就去那里；
Where you go, I will follow.
你哪里住，我就住那里。
Where you live, I will dwell there.
我们永不分别。
We will never separate from one
我
another.
对新郎就这样说：
And I say to the bridegroom,
至于我和我的家，
as for me and my
我
household,
们必定侍奉
we will serve the Lord.
天上的神，
We will serve the Lord in
这样
heaven.
就够了。
And this is already full of significance.
他们也不必点头啊，
And they do not need to nod their head
反正就站在你面前了嘛，
because they are standing before one
而
another
且手拉着手了，
and they hold hands
就
together.
是注意这2句话就好。
And with these 2 statements,
对女人来讲，你要一辈子跟定他；
as far as the bride is concerned, you must follow
对
the
男人
bridegroom.
来讲啊，我一辈子要带领我妻子侍奉天上的神。
As far as the bridegroom is concerned, I must lead my wife to serve the Lord all the days
这
of
是
our
一个
life.
好的励志。
And this is a good resolve.
另外啊，大卫也曾经立过志，
And David also resolved.
请看诗篇17篇第3节，
Psalm 17 verse 3. Turn to Psalm
17
17 verse 3.
第3节哈。
17 verse 3.
你已经试验我的心，你在夜间鉴察我，你熬炼我，却找不着什么。我立志，叫我口中没有过失。这是大卫的立志。
And this was the resolve of David.
我立志这一辈子啊，口中没有过失，
I have purpose that in my whole life my mouth shall not transgress,
因为祸从口出。
because war comes from speech.
大卫这个立志不简单的，
And it was not easy to have this resolve of
一辈
David.
子啊，口中啊没有过失。
that in his speech he did not transgress.
这个真的是很不简单。
This was not an easy resolve.
因为雅各书说，人的言语如果没有过失，他就是完全人。
Because in the book of James says, if you do not falter in your speech, then you are the perfect
所以
man.
这一句，如果我要学的话，我要改一改。
And so if I want to resolve as such, then I must change.
求神帮助我立志，我的口不贰过，那就好了。
To pray to the Lord that in my speech I do not transgress.
也就是说，今天讲错了，明天不会再讲哦，不贰过。
That today, if I do transgress, tomorrow I will not commit the same
那
transgression.
大卫是立志啊，口中完全没有过失，
And David resolved that throughout his days, his mouth shall not
所以他是
transgress.
朝完全人这个目标在立志。
So he resolved to be a perfect man.
所以这个但以理的立志是值得我们学。
So what Daniel had resolved is worthy of our emulation.
我们这一辈子要多多少少立点好的志向。
So in our life, we must have some good resolve.
好，最后我们再看17节，
And now we turn back to chapter 1 verse 17.
第1章17节。
1 verse 17.
说这4个少年人啊，神在各样文字学问上赐给他们聪明知识，但以理又明白各样的意象和梦兆。这4个人神都给他们一样的聪明智慧。
The Lord gave them all four the same wisdom and understanding.
而但以理多了一项，就是有属灵的智慧，所以可以解异梦，可以解异象。
But Daniel had one extra gift. There was understanding in all visions and dreams.
这是但以理超越他的同伴的这个地方。
And this was the way in which Daniel excelled over his companions.
那么根据犹太人呢，这个智慧有3种。
And according to the Jews, this wisdom of 3 types.
请看箴言第3章
We turn to Proverbs chapter 3,
19节、20节。
verse 19, verse 20.
箴言3章19节。
Proverbs chapter 3, verse 19.
耶和华以智慧立地，以聪明定天，以知识使深渊裂开，使天空滴下甘露。这里有3句话智慧、聪明、知识。
And here talks about wisdom, understanding, and knowledge.
那根据希伯来原文的解释智慧是先天来的，
And wisdom comes from heaven above.
那聪明是后天学的，
And understanding comes from learning.
而知识是凭经验得到的。
And knowledge comes from experience.
所以如果先天就有智慧，
If you are born with wisdom,
后天又努力勤学，
and then you strive and to understand,
那加上经验的累积，
and from the experiences that you have,
那这个人就不得了了。
then he would be an excellent person.
有些人是天资聪明，
Some people are gifted with wisdom,
但是后天不努力。
but they have not diligence in their
有
life.
些人虽然是很努力的学习，
And there are some people who are very diligent to
但
learn,
是经验不足。
but they lack the
有
experience.
些有经验的人他是后天失学了。
But there are some people who have knowledge, who have experience, but they lack
所
understanding.
以这3句话是不太一样的
And so these 3 words are different one from another.
第一句是天资聪明，
And first is the wisdom founded the earth from above.
第2句是后天勤学，
And secondly is this understanding that comes from learning.
第3句是经验丰富。
And the third is knowledge that comes from
那
experience.
假如3样都具备那真是前无古人后无来者。
And so therefore, if you have all these 3 things in your life, then you would be as great as great people in the ancient days.
那你看这个但以理书第1章17节但以理就是这样子
And Daniel 1 verse 17 tells us Daniel was such a person.
他天资聪明，
And he was born with wisdom.
后天又努力学习，
And he was very diligent in accumulating knowledge.
凭着他是3代元老的这种老资格他的经验又丰富，
And he was also abundant in experience.
所以难怪他在几个朝代里面都很吃香。
And no wonder he was so great in serving 3 dynasties of kings.
好，18节，
Verse 18.
尼布甲尼撒王预定带进少年人的日期满了，也就是3年满了， 太监长就把他们带到王的面前。
At the end of the 3 years, the chief of the eunuchs brought this young man before Nebuchadnezzar.
就是毕业考啊，要由王自己主持了。
And this examination upon graduation was conducted by the king himself.
好，19节啊，是王跟他们面谈，
And the king interviewed them in verse 19.
这个就是面试了，口试了。
And this was an interview face to face.
他说，看到这些少年人当中啊，没有一个人可以比但以理这4个人。
And among them all, none was as great as Daniel and his 3 friends.
我们要知道哈，这个受训的人呢，不只是希伯来人，
And always remember, those who were trained were not just the Hebrews.
还有巴比伦王从各国所掳来的那些年轻人。
And those include the young men who were taken captives from every land that the Babylonians dominated.
也都是具备相当优厚的条件的。
And they were excellent in youths who had
那
good requirements.
考试的结果呢，但以理跟3个朋友呢是名列前茅。
And as far as the results of the examination was concerned, Daniel and his 3 friends excelled over the others.
所以19节啊，最后一句说他们留到可以在王的面前侍立了。
So verse 19, the last statement says, therefore they served before the king.
20节王又继续拷问，
And verse 20, the king continued to test them,
包括各方各种的这个智慧啊。
and to test them in all matters of wisdom and understanding.
结果发现了他们比通国的术士和用法术的胜过10倍。
And the king found them 10 times better than all the magicians and astrologers.
什么叫做胜过10倍？
What is you mean by 10 times better?
这个胜过10倍啊，可以有2方面的了解啊。
There can be 2 understanding of 10 times better.
这个10啊，表示很多的意思。
10 can mean many times.
胜过太多太多了。
Excel over them in so greatly.
还有一个也可以字面的解释，
And some can be, another explanation can be
就
literal.
是别人考10分呢，他们考100分呢。
The others maybe have got 10 marks, whereas they had 100 marks.
如果别人考100分呢，他们考1000分呢，
If others had 100 marks, then they would have 1,000 marks.
反正是10倍嘛。
And that was 10 times.
所以这个10倍有很多的意思，
And 10 times can mean many.
也有真正是10倍的意
Can
思。
also mean literally 10 times.
这个都是神在他们求学期间的帮助。
And this was the help from God when they were being trained.
最后一节，
And the last verse,
到古列元年，但以理还在。
Daniel continued until the first year of King Cyrus.
就是根据这一节圣经呢，所以大家判断但以理写但以理书的时候，应该是巴比伦快王巴比伦刚王古列王刚刚登基的时候所写的。
And so, basing on this verse, some people say that Daniel wrote this book towards the end of the reign of the Babylonians and the beginning of the reign of King Cyrus.
所以一开始写的时候，他说还在。
So Daniel continued.
那就是刚刚古列王刚登基嘛。
When King Cyrus just rose to the throne.
可是到了第10章的第1节，
But chapter 10 verse 1 says,
但以理却补充了，
and Daniel explained further.
他说波斯王古列第3年，他还继续在看异象。
In the 3rd year of Cyrus, king of Persia, he continued to see visions.
那么这个第10章的第1节是后来才继续写。
And chapter 10 verse 1 was written later on.
所以根据第1章的最后1节有很多人就这样认为了，但以理书的写作应该是巴比伦帝国刚亡，而波斯帝国刚兴起的时候所写的了。
So basing on chapter 1 verse 20, last verse, many says that the book of Daniel was written towards the end of the Babylonian Empire and the time when the Persians first rose to power.
所以昨天我们根据第10章的第1节说，但以理最少也差不多90岁左右。
And so basing on chapter 10 verse 1, yesterday we say that Daniel must have lived up to about 90 years old.
这是第1章
This is the chapter 1 that
花
we
了很多
studied.
时间谈第1章，
And we have spent much time to study chapter 1.
因为第1章是但以理书的精华所在。
Because chapter 1 is the essence of the book of Daniel.
所以我们花这么多时间谈，
So we spend much time to study this
希望大家对第一章要有一点收获。
and hope that you all have gained from our study on Daniel
好，
chapter
那
1.
我们礼拜天呢，就是第2章跟第3章。
And on Sunday we will cover chapter 2, chapter 3.
希望各位有时间呢，把这2章先读一读。
And so if you have time, please read these 2 chapters at home.
晚上就到这里结束。
We will end our study tonight
好，因
here.
为时间关系了，我们就跪下祷告。